It is the trends, Neil Atkinson with Josh Williams, but it's free this week, so you get to firstly find out how fantastic Josh is. He's just come fresh from a game of paddle today. Didn't win though, so he's quite bitter about it.
Lost.
Took it badly, haven't you?
Yeah, it wasn't great.
It's a
terrible sport.
It's an undignified process, but all Josh does is criticise sports. You'll get stuck into football in a minute or two. But we are with our friends at Sailor. We're made up to be partnering with them, and it's the eSIM for your mobile phone that makes internet use abroad easier and cheaper. You download the app and you select the country that you're going to visit, and then you choose the length of stay and that data package, and it boxes you from there. If you use the code TAW when you do it, you get 15% off a price that's already really good. Tell everyone you know. They don't have to support Liverpool. They can have the advantage of it as well. 15% off it. And then once you install the eSIM, it just kicks in when you land and it's boxed. I've used it. That's how easy it is to use. I'm terrible at technology. I'm only really good for football stats and analytics and websites like that. Can't do anything else. But I can use the Salient eSIM, and it helped me massively when I was in Morocco. So whatever it is you're doing, I know a few people might be trying to get away this week because it's half term, or even thinking about the next European away with the Reds. Get hold of that app, use the discount code TAW, all lowercase, go from there. And ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. This is The Trends. Australia and New Zealand were coming back. Well, to Australia we're coming back, Craig. And one of my favourite things about doing the tours in the past has been going back to the same places, taking our show there, doing it differently, because the situation the Reds find themselves in, which we all accept is not ideal, but telling our stories in a completely different way, different stuff all the way through. It's been great going back to the US in the past. When we did Australia last year, so many people said, will you come back next year? We're coming back, and I can't wait to do it again, do it different and capture this moment, and also why the brilliance of getting to be a Liverpool supporter.
Yeah, so excited. I was saying on each of the shows that I hope we come back the following year and trying to wish it into existence.
And here it's existing.
And here it's happening. We're obviously going to Auckland and New Zealand for the first time, which would be brilliant, but the shows will be different. The context is different, but the laughs will be the same. And just that general sense of everyone getting in a room, because you know that, like, you know, it's difficult with the time zones to be able to do that. So yeah, I'm so excited to get back. It's going to be great.
Honestly, it's going to be absolutely brilliant. So we're across all of those nights. It is Sydney, it is Melbourne, it is Auckland, Brisbane, Adelaide and Perth. Slightly different venues in a couple of places. We're excited by that as well. It should be the absolute business. Get yourselves down if you can in Australia and in New Zealand. We cannot wait to see you. Sunderland, where Liverpool find themselves in this moment, a little bit on Brighton and Aston Villa, and the Brighton and Aston Villa chat will sort of merge into each other to an extent, but you're going to find out why as we go. Sunderland 0, Liverpool 1. We've got the race chart here. Sunderland's 1.14 is massively influenced by one header from a corner that we've talked about, which I think is actually one of those ones where the goalkeeper gets his fists to it at the same time as the lad heads it, i.e. Alisson is punching it clear and the lad's head meets it simultaneously, but because it's very, very, very close in, it comes down as a significant chance, and that is over 50% of Sunderland's XG. What I thought was so impressive about Liverpool's performance, Josh, was how well they kept Sunderland away from their goal.
Yeah, I thought it was very much a clean sheet. I thought it was a deserved clean sheet. Even at the end of the race map there, you can see, like, between, what's that, maybe like 70, 75, there's virtually no shot between the end and the end of the match. So Liverpool didn't even have to fight like a late onslaught or anything like that. I thought Liverpool kept the ball quite well. I think Liverpool should also go about 2 and 3 towards the back end of the game. Just a few open chances, a few moments on the break. I think Salah gets one, he just hits it just wide, doesn't he, the post. But no, it was a really, really good performance, I felt. And
what I like is if you have a little look, we can actually see it on the shot map, is 25 to 45. Liverpool, it's a nothing game. You've seen a lot of this season in matches that you've looked at with Arsenal, for instance, up to 25. Sunderland are actually ahead in the shot map. And then by the time we get to half-time, Liverpool are almost at 1. Which, if you're away from home, you know, and I know they're only small increases, a lot of them block shots in there, bits and pieces from set pieces, but it felt like to me, first and foremost, Liverpool had Sunderland penned in. Secondly, they were really good at ending the attack. And thirdly, part of them being really good at ending the attack was in loads of ways it kept them on the attack. So it's fine to have a shot and it be blocked and it go out for a corner off the basis that, well, you've got the ball and you get to start again. I think that's what that period is. Liverpool have just got them in there. And when they weren't quite sure what to do, they consistently also then did the right thing, which is either restarting the attack or then effectively just saying, well, you know what will happen here? We'll thrash one at goal. And if it hits their lads, then it'll be absolutely fine because it'll be our ball.
Yeah. I think the flow of the race map, you know, dictates exactly what I remember seeing with my eyes. I think around the 40th minute, I do remember thinking to myself, like, you know, we're going to regret not going in with a an advantage here, a bit of a lead, because I felt like we were starting to pair. We were still, you know, they were struggling to get up their own half and things like that. And it's just the only thing that can come with it was the goal, and we eventually get it. But I thought it could have came earlier. You can see that based on the flow that we benefited from at the start.
Yeah.
Well, near the start.
Match that's quite interesting. Their pass completion, not as low as it tends to be, 78%, we're at 82. Liverpool relatively high on pressures, level on pressure regains with them, tackles pretty close together. 56% of the Reds in terms of the possession, and obviously Liverpool have 23 shots to only their 11 over the course of the game. I'm quite, again, Josh, one of the reasons why their possession, I think, pass completion is where it needs to be, is I think they come out second half and think we've got to play some football here, because they're not playing football's killing us. The ball just keeps coming back and they've got us penned in. And then we go ahead. And this, I think, has been something which has been so hard for Liverpool this season, in that because they haven't been going ahead, to your point just before half-time as well, because they haven't been going ahead, I think there's been a bit of a thing where sides haven't been punished for just hoofing the ball up the pitch. They've been actually getting away with it, and not just getting away with it, but prospering with it. I think Sunderland start to complete passes because they need to get a goal, they need to play some football. Yeah,
I agree. Was that opening goal set piece, was it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, even that, like, that's you know, plays into your point really, where we're playing really well, but we still, throughout the entire match, didn't score a goal from open play, despite deserving one. So it does feel like this season, especially, we've had to work really hard for these wins, much harder than previous seasons and stuff, but, you know, at least we got it, and as you say, Sunderland second half with that long ball game, the long ball game that we really almost dreaded with the Anfield leg of this fixture. We seem to cope with it a lot better in this game.
Yeah, seems a real improvement in terms of that structure. You wrote an excellent piece for your Substack about how much Florian Wirtz gets the ball. We've got the pass networks for both sides here. I think some of them wouldn't be too disappointed with theirs. What I would say is they've only got one line going into Robbie. Hume didn't do a great deal for them from right wing over the course of the game, couldn't really hurt Liverpool. So Liverpool were able to sort of take charge.
I thought they missed Xhaka.
In a big way.
Yeah.
Really missed Xhaka in a big way. What's interesting for us, I think it's fair to describe the fullbacks as asymmetrical. Endo sits very, very close. Robertson goes, which I'll come back to in a minute. What's also fascinating to me is the number of lines that Liverpool have got going into Florian Wirtz. So you talked about how often he got on the ball, how many touches. What was striking to me, and I'll bring it up in a minute, is it's a pure number 10 performance. And what I mean by that is I love the average position, because that wasn't where he played. He would go one way, he'd go the other, he'd go wherever the space was.
Yeah.
And that to me is the most important thing. You want the average position to be almost off an invisible striker, if you know what I mean. Through the middle of the pitch, off an invisible striker, that's where you want it to be, because it's an average position, it's not a constant.
Yeah, he was just constantly overloading. Just wherever the ball was, he would overload that side by combining with Salah, then going on the opposite side, combining with Gakpo. So Liverpool constantly, it felt like on the flanks, had like a 3v2 or something like that, and that was because Wirtz was constantly getting involved wherever the ball was. I think in the end, according to Opta, he posted about 81 touches, I think I'm right in saying. That was the most of any Liverpool player, and he had the most shots with 5. You will not find that very often at all. You won't find a player who posts the most touches for his team and the most shots for his team. It's usually completely one at one end and one at the other end. If you think of, I don't know, Haaland, lots of shots, no touches. If you think of Van Dijk, lots of touches, no shots. Wirtz got a combination of the two, which is really rare, and he was doing that at Leverkusen too. So I thought it was one of the best games of the season for me. It
was. I thought it was one of Liverpool's best games of the season.
I did, yeah.
Bit of a quiz. You don't know the answer yet, because I've only pulled the slides together before, so we genuinely doesn't know the answer. Which player passed to Florian Wirtz the most?
I'm just going to pick a player that I thought had a really effective passing game, and I'm going to say Robbo.
So he's number 2.
Okay.
Number 1 is Mo Salah, 11.
Interesting.
Salah passes to Wirtz 11 times over the course of the game. Robertson 8, then Gakpo at McAllister at 6, Ryan Gravenberch at 5.
I thought Robbo was great, by the way.
Really good game.
Yeah, brilliant.
Really, really good game. Really pleased with him. I mean, the two left-backs back-to-back games have had 2 really good games. I think it's worth sort of acknowledging. Salah and Wirtz, it struck me that 11, and I was sort of had my eye on it as I was watching the game unfold, that the extent to which Salah, his mindset to me, whenever he got the ball, was where's Wirtz. That's not quite the highest pass combination of the whole game. The highest pass combination of the whole game is Van Dijk to Robertson. That's the most common one across the course of the match. But what struck me was how often, whenever Salah had the ball, he was looking for where Wirtz was.
Well, that kind of needs to be the mantra for the team. That needs to be every player's mindset, really. If we're moving into this new era, if you think of how to use Florian Wirtz, how he thrived at Leverkusen, that was what every player was constantly thinking, where's Wirtz? Grimaldo did it, Xhaka did it. And as I said, he posts loads of touches and that. He'll be the key for your team. He's playing bang in the centre of the pitch. He'll drift everywhere. Find him often and he'll deliver for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Sunderland's pressures are quite boring, the sort of way you think they're going to be, because Liverpool were the better side and they had them penned in. There's not really, they had fewer second opposition half pressures than they did against us. Again, talk about Wirtz's game. If you look at Liverpool's pressure map, it's right slap bang through the middle of the pitch there, and I've got the count, Wirtz 26, Ekitike 31. The thing about playing long balls, where we've done my head in at times this season, isn't so much that when we're coming up against opponents they're playing long balls, it's that too many of them are unpressurised.
Yeah, I was going to say that.
And it lets you pick them out. To me, that's striking. Wirtz and Ekitike very much closing down whenever it is that something have got the ball on the edge of their own area, not letting them pick one out, just making them hoof it. Yeah,
big difference between a long ball and a hoof.
Yeah.
Or a clearance, or whatever you want to call it.
So being hurried. There's a difference between playing football when you're under pressure and when you're not.
Yeah, in fact, you want it to be more of a hopeful clearance versus an actual pass. And I think you do that usually by putting pressure on the player in possession of the ball. Klopp was big on that, and it does feel like lately, Wirtz especially, and Ekitike, you could argue, it just seems to be a bit more of a physical edge to the team, McAllister included. I would say, just seem a bit more longevity to the legs, bit stronger, things like that, just a bit more competitive, I think.
Liverpool pressures, as I said there, you can see where they all are, which is on the edge of the Sunderland penalty area, pretty much all the Wataru Endo zone there at right back, looking to get it and get there first. So so we played, it's been a recurring theme of mine, motif over the season, apologies to everyone. We played the three promoted sides, home and away. Liverpool find themselves in a position where they don't beat any of them at home. And they've ended up only winning 2 away. So what I did was I've pulled the underlying data for the games against those three sides, plus the other sides that currently sit in the bottom 6. So therefore that includes Tottenham, it includes West Ham and Nottingham Forest and Wolves. So it's 7 teams in total, the 3 promoted, 2 of whom were also in the bottom 6, and the rest of the sides in the bottom 6. Tottenham are now a bottom 6 side. Do you agree?
I'm not going to dispute that, yeah. I think they're a bit of a shambles at the moment, aren't they?
I just think you can't finish 17th one season and be 16th after 25 games the next, and it not be reasonable for people to call you the bottom 6 team.
I know. It's funny though that a bottom 6 team in England is good enough to finish 4th in the Champions League over the course of 8 games. But styles make fights, I suppose.
Styles do indeed make fights, and you see something here. What I've pulled this is the total XG difference inclusive over the course of the season, and even here Tottenham are 5th worst, Liverpool are 5th best, and that metric is just beginning to push Liverpool genuinely into the company of Chelsea, Manchester United and City. Arsenal over the hill and far away. It's the reason why Arsenal ought to win the league title. If they don't, it's of their own doing. But that's XG difference inclusive against everyone. What I've pulled is the 7 that I've just mentioned. So the games against those 7 teams. So the current bottom 6 and Sunderland, basically, which is also includes the newly promoted sides. First and foremost, best performers Arsenal. That shouldn't be a surprise, given the previous graph, that they're the best performers in this as well. Then Chelsea, then Liverpool. So I've just run through, when we were talking there about Liverpool's underperformance, but the underlying numbers are nowhere near that stark from Liverpool's point of view. But the points is what matters. So far this season, Liverpool, Arsenal, Chelsea and City have all played 10 games against those sides I've just mentioned. Arsenal took 26 points, City have took 23, and that's massively influenced by their record against Tottenham home and away. Chelsea have took 22 and Liverpool have only took 19. So Liverpool are going at less than 76 point pace against effectively the bottom 6 and Sunderland. If Liverpool don't get in the Champions League, this will be the reason, first and foremost, let's be clear. But it's worth saying, you might want to look at it as in Liverpool's defence if you want, but it's worth sort of pointing out that the 3rd best performers on the metric of XG difference inclusive.
Yeah, I mean, it's weird how you analyse that. I mean, I've just mentioned before that styles make fights. It does feel to me like there's a bit of a style thing in there where you're facing more long balls, you're facing long throws, set pieces, low blocks. Slots been big on low blocks all season, so maybe there's a bit of a stylistic issue there for Liverpool.
But the underlying numbers are all right.
Exactly, that's what I was going to say. But the underlying numbers suggest that Liverpool have been fine. It's just been on the back of bad variance, maybe.
It should be better, but...
I mean, a Leeds game you pointed out before, that should have been a win away from home. We should have won all 3 away from home. That's just that was I suppose a moment, like a 10-minute Canate thing and all that. That was just nuts, really. There's been a few of them this season. There's
been a couple of them, so that's where we are now. Keep your eye on Villa. Villa are just, even in this, Villa are only just positive. So before, when we did it all the way through, Villa were just a little bit negative, even if they sit in third. 8 points clear to Liverpool. They're only just positive on XG difference inclusive. So all right, let's look at a couple of the metrics for games against these teams. So here's your set piece XG created for games against these teams. Best performers Arsenal by a mile. Then Newcastle. Well, Arsenal and Newcastle by a mile, sorry. Then the 2 Manchester clubs, then Chelsea. So there's 5. All 4 of them are Champions League clubs. The other one's Manchester United, who have a Champions League budget. Go up the other end, Villa are 3rd worst.
Right.
So Villa, having just said where they're underperforming on the underlying numbers, are also underperforming on set piece XG. Liverpool are 6th worst. Over the course of the season. Interestingly, Sunderland, who I actually pointed out before the game, weren't great at set pieces. Everyone thought they would be, but they're not. They're not some sort of mad performer at set pieces. They're there as well. So Liverpool there is 6th worst. Not good enough. Set piece XG conceded. Madly, Crystal Palace are the worst team in the country in the games against these 7 clubs, which you wouldn't have guessed.
No, it's insistent.
But Liverpool are just below mid-table, so Liverpool are bottom half there. Chelsea aren't so good either. Sunderland's again quite poor in this, but Villa are worse than everyone I've just said. So Villa, theoretically, from set pieces, should not be going great.
Yeah.
Open play XG, again, against these 7 sides. 3rd worst in the country at Aston Villa.
The recurring theme here.
Liverpool are 4th best. Chelsea are actually the best from open play. Arsenal 5th. A bit of a gap between Arsenal and Liverpool. Shows the importance that set pieces have had for Arsenal over the course of the season, and I'd argue game management, which we're going to come on to. But they're those games. But open play XG conceded. Arsenal against these 7 teams, unbelievably good. Just basically, you said before about our game against Sunderland felt like a clean sheet game. Basically, all of Arsenal's teams, all of Arsenal's games against these 7 teams feel like clean sheet games for Arsenal.
Yeah.
That's such a performance. Sides can't get near them to have a shot.
No, they're twice as good as the next best team.
Yeah, maybe even 3 times.
Which is just amazing. Like.
Then Liverpool, then Aston Villa. So this is one of the things that's interesting, then Aston Villa. So okay. Liverpool are better than Aston Villa, but then Aston Villa. And then we sort of keep going down as you were on the poorer sides are at the bottom there. But everyone else, Chelsea, United, City, they're all a bit mid-table. Liverpool doing quite well. But this is Villa's record against the bottom half. Now, it's a bit muddy because I didn't have time to cut out Fulham, Crystal Palace and Brighton. Ignore them. So they drew against Sunderland. They've beaten Leeds away, beaten Tottenham away, beaten Forest at home, beaten West Ham away, beaten Burnley at home and beaten Wolves at home. So those other sides before I went through, they played 10 games. They've actually only played 7. Really? And they've already taken from those 7, 19 points, which is the same as Liverpool.
Yeah.
And it just made me wonder why. We've just gone through those numbers. We've just gone through those numbers for those games. And a couple of things sort of stand out. One is that there's actually only one of those games that they win by more than 1 goal, which is that home game against Forest in January. But there's only one of those games that they win by more than 1 goal. So it's not like at any point they're sort of streaking into anything. And my sort of contention is there's a lot of people who want to talk about Villa and XG this season. It's become a bit of a meme thing.
Yeah.
What I think that misses, Josh, is in football there's luck. And then there's the idea of when you get luck, riding your luck. And I think my argument is that, and I mean this is a compliment to Villa, this isn't me saying, oh, Villa are shit or anything like that. I mean this is a compliment to Villa. I think what they've done so well this season is that when something's gone their way, they've made sure it counts. And they've managed to manage the game out in a brilliant way. I said before about open play XG conceded against these sides, how low it is. They've not been attacking brilliantly against these teams, but set pieces or otherwise. But when one of their quality players has done something really good, they've made sure it counted. Yeah,
it's weird with that one. I mean, my only pushback on that would be how does one ride luck? Do you know what I mean? How exactly do you do that? Like, one of the curious things I've found about Villa this season is the number of efforts from outside the box. facing so many low blocks and things like that, they seem to be quite good at converting from distance. If you think of Tillemans, if you think of Rodgers, I think there's been a few more in there. But it seems to be a bit of a recurring theme to such an extent that, like, are they working on this behind the scenes? Are they almost going back in time by shooting from further out, things like that? Because that would explain a lot of the overperformance when it comes to the expected goals, you know, finishing hot and stuff.
Well, let's talk about that, because again, I think there's part of it though, and again, talk about riding the lookout. So Liverpool this season when they're drawing, the shots for Liverpool 18.2, XG, number of goals is 19. So about par for the course for Liverpool. There's a penalty in there and a penalty missed. Par for the course. Liverpool though, shots against when they've been drawing in games 8, XG 8.01, so 8, and they've conceded 12. Villa, dead interesting, and just to your point there, if you can zoom in, and hopefully we can zoom in with the graphic, you can see around the D 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, even further out, all from outside the box as part of this. So there's 8 around the line, and there's 2 just a little bit further out. Hopefully, as I say, they can zoom in on that one when it comes together. So you can see those efforts. Expected 12.77, numbers 19.
See, that's the kind of thing that, you know, the analytics guy on the street would look at that and say that's not sustainable. It's a matter of time before they slip out of the top 4. That's what I've been waiting for, to be honest, for most of the season. But are they now close enough to the finish line whereby they've got enough of a gap to just roll over the line? Almost. Not necessarily, I mean, it's not that it's undeserved, it's just not how things are typically done nowadays.
But also, to your point about how many of them are around the D and the nature of the players who are taking the shots, you know, people do get to work on something.
Yeah.
It may well be that they're just good at this.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
it might be that, you know, next year, and they've got belief as well. 2 things can be the case at once. You know, they can have more belief. They can fancy themselves that they are going to actually do the business, if you see what I mean, and that belief grows. If next season get 10 games in and none of them have gone in, then you do begin to, maybe the belief begins to ebb away in the players. But I think that is quite striking, and it's all right for that to happen. You know, there will be some form of a reversion to mean. But I'll say again, I think that whenever I watch Villa, the thing I do I really admire in them is game state. I think they really manage games well, and especially when they've got ahead. I think they're just really good at going into that Emery compact, narrow.
Yeah, I was going to say Emery, it feels like signature Emery to me. That I think he's arguably the best in the league when it comes to changing things mid-game, I think, and reacting to the scoreline and stuff like that. I think he loves a substitution. You know, I think his subs are quite effective. I think he's generally got like a big squad of players who are about 27 and have just been around the block and stuff, like even getting something out of like Lindelof and players like that. So I do think there's a big managerial performance in there,
yeah. And then shots against, and this is one where maybe you can, you know, say there's elements of fortune. Goalkeeper's played well recently, but he hasn't played well all season. We speak to Villa supporters about it. 18.09, 13 goals. This is again whilst games are level. So where you end up here is that there's effectively a 3.3 going one way and a 4.7. Sorry, not 3.3, sorry, my maths is awful there. 6.3 going one way and 4.9 going the other way.
That's only when scores are level?
When scores are level.
Okay, that's interesting. So,
effectively, Villa are getting far better performance when games are level in both directions than, you know, almost 50% better performance on both metrics, which is quite something. But I'll say again, none of this is, from my point of view anyway, it's not saltiness, because this is part of what's annoyed me about Liverpool this season. I think good sides and sides that have got the ability to be good are good at being lucky. And I said I was going to tie this back around to Brighton. I think Liverpool deserve to go 1-0 up against Brighton. I think they're the better side. I think they're on top. But the 5-10 minutes after after Liverpool score, Brighton get a one-on-one. It's all going in Brighton's direction, but Liverpool ride it out in this instance. Good goalkeeping combined with decent defending, and they managed to see themselves out of a bit of a hole for a period. And that's good football. You know, you've got to have resilience. And I think this season, for a variety of reasons, many of which are well documented, Liverpool have lacked resilience. And what I praise Villa for, you know, if they're when the games are level, Liverpool's XG against is 8. So that you're not really absorbing that much punishment there. If you stop to think about it for a second, Villa, when the games are level, 18, but they're absorbing that punishment and then they're coming back strong. And I think that's to their credit over the course of the campaign.
But we slotted something recently about performance in both boxes. I don't know if you saw that comment, yeah. But it's you could kind of argue the difference between Liverpool and Villa this season hasn't necessarily been everything in the middle of the pitch. It's been the performance in both boxes. You know, Villa have had a goalkeeper that saved above expectation there when it comes to scores being level, but crucially at the other end, more so, they've just finished really, really hot.
What I like about both performances, last two for Liverpool, Sunderland and Brighton, is Sunderland come out second half with a real sense of, one, we've got away with one there first half, two, it's got to be better in front of our own supporters, and I thought Liverpool rode it out really, really well. Second thing I really liked was, in both instances, as I say, immediately after the goal goes in, obviously Liverpool go on to score more goals against Brighton. Liverpool do the same thing. They do that against Brighton as well. They have that sort of that resilience in themselves all the way through. And I just think that's so. I think that is gonna, if Liverpool are going to achieve their minimum ambition over the course of the season, and anything on top of that, that's what they're going to have to do really well, because Liverpool, even if they're playing well, they're going to get punched in the face at some points because it's football and that's what happens to you. And that to me is what I want to see more of from this Liverpool side, is doing well when the chips are down, when it's going against you. That's where I think they're going to have to, you know, find that little bit more. And I'm really pleased about both Sunderland and Brighton because they find that bit more.
Yeah, life will also be just a lot easier, and supporters will feel a lot better about beige performances at times if the finishing's just really good though. Like Salah sets one up, Szoboszlai absolute rocket into the top corner. We felt similar after Karabakh after hitting them for 6. If you can start just delivering in the box, you know, maybe we'd be doing that a bit more if Isak was playing. Maybe if Gakpo had the shooting that he had last season, you could argue, you know, that's supposedly one of Gakpo's perks, but we haven't really seen it too much this season. Just getting that finishing back would help quite a lot, and lately we look like we're ticking a little bit when it comes to that.
You just ticked up a tiny bit, nothing special.
No.
Don't get carried away. Thank you very much to Josh. Thank you very much to Saley. Back soon.